Once again, a very warm welcome to the program. This is the Morning Call. I am Nyasha Keumaya. Now we head to Libya. In our leading story, Turkey's parliament has passed a bill that will allow the government to deploy troops to Libya to intervene in the civil war. The Turkish lawmakers approved the bill on Thursday with 325 in favor to 184 against. The Libyan government has been fighting an insurgency by forces under renegade General Khalifa Haftar based in eastern Libya.
The Turkish parliament has authorized intervention in Libya of the army in support of the official government. By a very large majority, MPs gave President Recep Tayyip Erdogan a one-year mandate to send troops to Libya across the Mediterranean. It is not clear whether the Turkish president will now actually take this initiative, which could have far-reaching consequences. Libya is already the scene of a struggle for influence between, on one hand, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates and Egypt, could support the forces of the rebel Marshal Khalifa Haftar. On the other hand, Turkey and Qatar could support the government of national unity in Tripoli, led by Fayez al-Sarraj and supported by United Nations. At the gate of Tripoli, Marshal Haftar, supported by France, which believes that he must be part of the political solution, waiting for his time to launch an offensive and take the capital.
Well, meanwhile, the self-proclaimed Marshal Khalifa Haftar continues his offensive to seize Tripoli despite calls for calm from the international community. This Turkish support is only a response to the appeal for help launched by the government of the national unity, which so far has the support of only Qatar and, of course, now Turkey. All the other countries have sided with a strong man in eastern Libya. The UN envoy to Libya, Ghassan Salameh, and the Turkish president accused Moscow of having hired mercenaries to work alongside Khalifa Haftar. In this struggle for influence, it remains to be seen whether President Erdogan, whose decision is for him to make it, will actually send troops to the country.
And to understand more, we are joined by journalist and president of Club de l'Information Africaine, or simply African Information Club, who's joining us from Paris, France. A very good morning to you, and thank you for joining us on the program. Now, the Turkish lawmakers have passed a motion that will allow President Erdogan to deploy troops and essentially intervene in Libyan affairs. So many fear that this will result in an escalation of the ongoing civil war. What are your thoughts on this?
What is certain is that today we need a strong Libyan state and government. With the present disorder, nothing will happen. The fact that Turkey finally decided to intervene, even if it does so by choosing a side, will allow us to have a winner and to re-establish some form of alternative on the ground. And if some people are not satisfied with the approach, there is still the United Nations system today to find a comprehensive solution which will be multilateral and not unilateral, as is the case today with Turkey. But I'm betting more on the spillover effect of this decision and not on the fact that it's based on partisan, its manifestation. Aren't you finally worried that with the presence of all its foreign forces, Libya will turn into a playground where foreign powers are fighting each other through intermediaries? Whether they remain with their arms folded or not, what is certain is that we have reached a stage in the war that is about to get out of the status quo or abandon Libya in the face of its problems. There is a civil war in that country. Not intervening means not helping a country in danger, and Turkey has decided to intervene. Does it have the means to establish order and peace? Nobody can say that today. What is true is that Turkey is not the first country to intervene independently in Libya. More so, the stakes that it represents in terms of security in this country. Because beyond Libya, what is important is the possibility of getting its hand today on what makes it possible to produce atomic energy. Intervening in Libya also puts us on the road to atomic energy. I am therefore more or less convinced that all the other members of the Security Council will find a solution which will force them to intervene when they were not sufficiently motivated to do so. So the fact that the Turkish parliament has decided to put its foot in the door will force the Security Council to take its responsibility, and that is all good.
Now, Mr. Keumaya, do you think what is happening between Turkey and Libya shows a failure on the part of the African Union to find internal relief to this conflict?
Europe took a long time to find a solution to the crisis in the Balkans, and it took a lot of intervention to reach the beginning of a lasting solution in these countries. The wound has not yet been completely healed, yet the construction of Europe is still one of the most important models in terms of pooling resources and value. The African Union, and in its early days, it did not have a defense policy. This is not the case for Europe either, but it is much more paralyzing for Africa today. It is really at a stage of development where it needs all its forces to succeed, but still does not have the means to gather all its forces and react on the most important issues. I'm not throwing stones at the African Union, but perhaps when the intervention in Libya happened, the African leaders of state should have put themselves in a position to forbid this intervention. They did not do that. It's regrettable. It's not the fact that they didn't get an answer today, but the fact that they could not stop the French intervention that destroyed Libya.
En Libye, ils ne l'ont pas fait, c'est ça qui est le plus regrettable. C'est pas le fait qu'il n'ait pas de réponse aujourd'hui, c'est le fait qu'il n'ait pas empêché le chaos de s'installer en Libye au moment où la France et ses alliés ont décidé de bombarder, de détruire ce pays.
Well, we have to end that there this morning. Thank you very much for giving us your time here on the Morning Call. That was Louis Keumaya, journalist and president of the African Information Club, joining us from Paris, France. Back to you, Ruth.